Well, the trophy case stays intact at the Iowa football complex as the Hawkeyes take care of Iowa State and bring the Cyhawk Trophy home to Iowa City, where it will reside for at least another year. Welcome to Black and Gold Breakdown. I'm Rob Brooks, Gavin McGrath, and Gavin, we expected a four-quarter game. I talked to Kirk Ferentz at halftime and wasn't pleased about the way the second quarter ended. Iowa State certainly had the momentum going into the third quarter. Hawkeyes turned that around really quickly, and especially at that point in time, you thought, okay, hey, this is going to come down to the last 4 or 5 minutes, but boy, that defense and special teams took care of business, especially in that third quarter.
Yeah, the third quarter was certainly the turning point, and we created some turnovers that, caused them to, quite frankly, pull out their, returning quarterback and potential Heisman Trophy candidate, as they say. But I'll tell you what, it was incredible, the field position, the battle that we won. I mean, our punter, Tory Taylor, who ended up being the co-special teams player of the week, the way that he punted the football that entire game, pinned them deep in their own end zone, in their own 10-yard line 3 times the first quarter. And then to be able to overcome that hurdle of giving up that touchdown at the end of the second quarter, coming out the third, and doing what we did on defense was spectacular. Yeah,
you talk about Tory Taylor and the fact that the first week he really punted well, and he said, well, he didn't get it inside the 10-yard line, but it only missed by like a yard or two. And then he's got that backspin where the point hits and comes back kind of like a wedge shot. And this time pins Iowa State inside the 10. And not only the distance, but even a 35-yard punt. I mean, his hang time was 3.6, 3.7 on a 35 or 40-yard kick. It just, there's nothing you can do because you don't get those return yards in there. And then with that defense, when you get yourself inside the 10-yard line, close that playbook up a little bit, well, that really just plays right into Iowa's philosophy right now.
It really does, yeah. And certainly, as everybody knows, we have some work to do on the offensive side of the ball. We had a great second quarter. Outside of that, really struggled. There is part of that where we run an offense that manages the clock. But certainly, I know that they're in the offensive room going, we got to put up more yards.
Consistency.
And we need to get some consistency. And to me, it starts up front with the offensive line. And that it's Iowa football. And so once we get that 5 guys core solid, here are 5 guys, because we rotated Connor Colby through with Justin Britt. And then now that Kyler Schott sounds like maybe healthy, if not this week, next week. If we can get some consistency up front with those front 5 guys, I think you're going to see our offense start clicking a lot better.
Yeah, and I think with 2 non-conference games coming up that are certainly very winnable, Iowa heavily favored in both games, Kent State and Colorado State. Kyler Schott maybe get some work in this week, a little bit more the following week, and then be ready for the second Big Ten game at Maryland. So that scenario looks positive.
It does. It really does. And that, I think, will be really key. Just the confidence, that he's got some pocket presence, meaning Spencer, so we can start throwing the ball downfield a little bit more. I mean, we haven't seen Tyrone Tracy get involved very much at all at this point. He's athletic, and he can be really good. So on the flip side, and the other side of the line, I thought our defensive tackles, our young guys, played phenomenal. They were a big reason we were able to bottle up Breece Hall. 69 total yards rushing, and really never really busted one loose. I thought our defensive line played extremely well. Pass rush, don't have the athletes quite like we did with A.J. Epineza and Chauncey Golson, but our run stoppage right now is fantastic.
Well, then you look at just the turnovers, and flying to the football is just unreal. I mean, Iowa has 70 interceptions since 2017, leads the NCAA. I mean, that's just an unbelievable number to talk about.
It's crazy, and and everybody talked about it. I think Phil Parker was viral this Saturday.
As he should be.
He's done an unbelievable job. It's just next man in. The next year, we lose Desmond King. Josh Jackson comes in, and now we got Riley Moss, and Matt Hankins made 2 great plays on the ball. And it's really, I think the players say this too, it's everybody buying into the team concept of the defense. Because once you start saying, I want to get mine, I'm going to make 15 tackles, or I'm going to get this many picks, then you start getting leaky. But when everybody does their job at a high level and does their role on every single play, then you start making big plays. That's the way that Phil's defense works with this. So it's fun to watch.
Evan, you've been around him. What makes Phil Parker tick?
I'd say attention to detail. And he is unforgiving of every little thing. Everything matters. You know, his deal is, it's just, everything matters, every single detail. And if it's in, he's so competitive.
Yeah.
I mean, he is so competitive. If it's a 7-on-7 and it's the middle of March and you're doing spring, or April, you're doing spring ball, and if we give up a pass play, it is the biggest deal in the world. So it's the expectation. It's every little detail, and his defense plays the way that he did when he was at Michigan State, just a reckless abandonment. You know, and I've watched film. I wasn't born when he was playing, but watching film, the guy played downhill and with reckless abandon.
Yeah, back in the day too, when there was a lot of that going on. And Matt Hankins talked about that. That's the expectation.
Yeah.
People say, well, why didn't you celebrate after that interception? That's the expectation. That's what we're here to do.
Yep. And there's constantly, you know, being in practice, it's constant bickering between him and the offensive coordinator. You know, he thinks Coach Ferentz always favors the offense. And so he has his chip on his shoulder all the time. And he's, you know, the guy's unbelievable.
Yeah, he really is. And now, hopefully, and continue to get his due nationally, because he's got a defense that is up there nationally as well. We'll take a look at our top 5 plays of the game next on Black and Gold Breakdown. Black and Gold Breakdown on MC22 is brought to you by McGrath Family of Dealerships, 5 Seasons Tire, Tom Riley Law Firm, Collins Community Credit Union, Heartland Hearing Center, and by Extreme, powered by Mediacom.
Every second, 127 new devices connect to the internet. You can feel it happening. Our digital world expanding with every breath. We're entering a whole new era of connectivity, and Mediacom will be ready to power it with one of the nation's first 10G platforms. We'll be bringing you more speed, more capacity, more security, and the power to do more than you ever dreamed possible. Today, more than ever, you need fast, reliable internet. At Mediacom, we want you to know you can count on us. Our fiber-powered 100% gigabit technology network was built for the future. We have enormous capacity and power and 99.99% network reliability. So even though these are uncertain times, we're prepared. And you can be certain we'll keep your world connected.
Thank you for virtual family dinners and long-distance birthday wishes. Thank you for sweet streaming melodies and spontaneous dance parties. Thank you for keeping classrooms together and learning alive. Thank you to our incredible network of employees who make all these beautiful connections possible.
Top 5 plays, Iowa against Iowa State, brought to you by McGrath Family of Dealerships. And of course, it's one of those games where there's more than 5. But the key thing, I thought, really to get going after Iowa State put 3 on the board, how does Iowa respond? You don't want to get down a couple of scores. And Hawks put a good drive together, and then Goodson off the right side. Yeah, and this was a really good push, and then that lead block sealed the deal.
Yeah, Linderbaum, you know, everybody keeps talking about him, but here's another just great reach block, meaning he's got to see how he gets way outside of that guy. That guy certainly has an advantage based on his alignment, how quick he is off the ball. I mean, Linderbaum.
He gets those shoulders turned.
Yeah, he does. It's just, you know, and I thought Goodson with a good finish there, but a great play. Good job
and
getting on the board.
Goes back to the problem where Iowa was kicking field goals and not punching it in. There's a good indication of the running game working inside the 5.
Here's one of those 70 interceptions we've had since 2017. Matt Hankins, great play on the ball. Really just a jump ball. He threw it up there. Matt read this route extremely well, was in his hip pocket. May have gotten away with a little bit of a hole right there, but sometimes you got to try to sneak one in. And Matt had himself a day, 2 picks, and I thought he played really well in run support.
Yeah,
as well.
just severely underthrown, but went up for the ball and got his head turned. And these guys catch it. When they got an opportunity, they take advantage. And speaking of taking advantage, a little post route that was really tight, even tighter in person, I thought. And Charlie Jones makes a terrific catch. But how about this throw by Spencer Petras? put it where only Jones could get it, and you're not going to see many completions better than that this year.
No, and Spence obviously has some work to do just overall, but gosh, he made some opportunistic throws and put it where he needed to when we needed it on Saturday.
I mean, there was nothing there.
No.
Start of that play.
What a play. And here, Seth Benson gets his hands on the ball, and Coach Ferentz joked about how he doesn't know why his linebackers spend time on the jugs machine after practice, but here's why. Because we got our hands on one here.
How many of these do you get a year?
There's a gift for you. I thought our linebackers played outstanding, and we've got so much versatility with those three, meaning Justin Jacobs, Seth Benson, and Jack Campbell. Seth, I thought, had a really good game. Got opportunistic here. And here's another example of how good our linebackers are. This play was made by Justin Jacobs, who I thought had a coming out party. We've known this guy's athletic, but if we watch this again, you see what he does as his tight end. He basically just one arm throws him right here at the bottom of the screen. Boom, get out of my way. I'm going to make a tackle. And he knocked the ball out of his hands right in Jack's happy birthday, Jack Campbell. So
the light has come on for Justin Jacobs.
It really has. And I mean, these guys are just playing phenomenal football. And I talk about this play in X's and O's, and I really, as I said earlier, I think it started that play too with our two interior tackles because that play was meant to go inside, and they were stout, tried to bounce it, and Justin did his job, was in contain, and we came up with a touchdown.
Well, and too, Gavin, you talk about, he punched the ball away, but I thought the most impressive thing was getting off that block.
Yeah, I mean, he played that thing perfectly. He's the contained guy in that defense, so nothing outside of him. Stood him up, threw him, was able to make the tackle, and what a play.
Yeah, and then I think overall, especially when you get into the second half, and the hands, Moss we saw, Hankins we saw. How many times you see in an NFL game or a college game, high school, doesn't matter, where there's an interception right there, and guy drops it, and he's mad at himself, he hits himself in the head, jumps up and down. Doesn't happen with this team.
It really
seems
doesn't.
to take advantage of just about every single opportunity. That's how you get 70 since 27.
Yeah, and I know they work on it. They're working the jugs machine, as Coach alluded to. They're working that because they know they're going to get those opportunities with the amount of film time they put in, knowing what plays are coming, knowing the routes they run in certain formations. They know they're going to get an opportunity, and they better make the most of it, and we have so far this year.
Yeah, and how much is it, too, that Iowa prides itself on multiple sport athletes? You guys just didn't play football in high school. They ran track, played baseball, played basketball. So, I mean, they're really athletic as well, I think.
No question, yeah. I mean, Riley Moss was an excellent hurdler. Kayvon Merriweather
Jack
was
Campbell's a good basketball player.
Campbell is a basketball player. I think people talk about the Iowa development of 2- and 3-star football players. Really, you make a great point. I think they do such a diligent job at digging into who these kids are as human beings and as athletes, on the football field, but as importantly on the basketball field or on the basketball court, wrestlers. You look at a guy like Tyler Sash, he wasn't a highly recruited football player, but he was unstoppable on the basketball court. They saw it. They were lead on him, and he turned out to be an NFL guy. So there's just all those stories that these coaches do this diligent work and finding out who they really are at the core, and they turns out to this type of players.
Yep. If you got a young athlete, play them all. We'll be back with more Black and Gold Breakdown after this.
While a lot is changing in our world, at Mediacom, our focus remains the same, making sure you have the fastest, most reliable connection possible. During this critical time, we know your needs are changing. You may be working or learning from home, relying on telemedicine, or finding new ways to keep everyone entertained. If you need more speed, call or go online, and Mediacom will double your speed immediately for as low as $10 more a month for 1 year. Right now, millions of people and billions of devices are connected to the internet. Homes, businesses, hospitals, schools. The security and reliability of these connections are more important than ever. That's why at Mediacom, we've built a network to protect them. A network that sees threats, fixes problems before they occur, and keeps you going with 99.99% network reliability. Every second, 127 new devices connect to the internet. You can feel it happening, our digital world expanding with every breath. We're entering a whole new era of connectivity, and Mediacom will be ready to power it with one of the nation's first 10G platforms. We'll be bringing you more speed, more capacity, more security, and the power to do more than you ever dreamed possible.
Players of the Week on Black and Gold Breakdown. Let's talk a little Charlie Jones. And what an addition to the Iowa football program Charlie Jones has been. We saw him in special teams, obviously, last year, starting to do some things from scrimmage this year. But, Gavin, you look at 36 yards in receiving, 44 yards in kick returns, and 53 in punt returns for 133 total all-purpose yards. He's got some street toughness to him. He is not afraid of anything, it looks like to me, on the football field.
Yeah, no question. That punt returning especially, it's such a tough skill that he has just dialed in and turning these seemingly, net returns or 1 or 2 yard returns into scooting away and getting a 25, 30-yard return. You think about that. You think about a 30-yard punt return. That's 3 first downs. That's 3 first downs put together that offense does not have to get anymore. And our average field position was in that 48 to 50 for the game, right?
Yep.
Whereas Iowa State is in that 15 to 20-yard line. And so you look at the difference in the game, and I would argue that Torrey should also be part of this. Torrey Taylor of the Offensive Player of the Week, or special teams, whatever you want to call those two together. They really impacted the game at a high level on Saturday.
Yeah, I talked to a couple of former Iowa State players, and they said, field position was the name of the game. Iowa State, if they were able to open up their offense, just never had that opportunity because they're facing, one, a really good defense. Number two, never had good field position the entire day.
Yeah, and it started with Charlie and, like you said, Torrey. So those two are just fantastic ads for us. One from Australia and one a Buffalo graduate transfer. So thank God we played the free agency well.
The Buffalo Bulls, not the Buffalo Bills, but he might play for the Buffalo Bills someday. Defense, Matt Hankins, of course, the 2 interceptions. And as we talked about, all 3 levels of the defense really played well. Boy, you get 2 picks, we got to talk about you. And it's just part of that ball-hawking secondary that we figured would be this good, but is really showing up. And here's a guy that I think a lot of the other players really appreciate for the fact, that he didn't have to come back. He chose to come back for this year.
And aren't we glad he did? And I really think he's stepped into a true leadership role too. Just the way he reacted, as you said earlier, with that pick. I expect it. I expect to make those type of plays. I think he's also playing a really good football and run support. Which when you can have cornerbacks that come up and aren't afraid to make tackles and do it in space, which Riley and him both are tackling really well in space, it's a difference maker on the defense side of the ball.
Yeah, and you kind of think, too, about Hankins and Moss, lockdown corner guys, and the depth. There's really good football players that don't get a chance to play that could play for probably pretty much any other Big Ten team out there.
Yeah, no question. Terry Roberts, he's playing really well in special teams. He'd step in.
And did play some in the fourth quarter.
Yep. And it's just we've got some cool depth right now. Those guys are having a lot of fun, and they are playing fast.
Well, the defense certainly knows how to get into the end zone. And in X's and O's, Gavin McGrath talks about and breaks down Iowa's defensive touchdown.
All right, welcome to today's segment of X's and O's, recapping the Iowa versus Iowa State game, a great win for Iowa. And I think it started up front on defense, being able to bottle up Breece Hall, the potential Heisman candidate. He ran for only 69 yards. And so I want to recap one play in particular that was really important and pivotal in the game, which was the scoop and score by Jack Campbell, all right, in the third quarter when he ran in for a touchdown on their 6-yard line. But really, I think I want to paint a picture of how we really bottled him up and what we just schematically did against specific personnel. All right, normally, all right, Iowa State loves to have multiple tight ends on the field, and they've run the ball well with 2 and even 3 tight ends on the field and blocked up teams. And that's what led to a lot of success last year with Breece Hall. All right, so defensively, here's what we lined up in when they came out with 2 tight ends on the field. In this case, there was 3, but when they had 2 tight ends split like this, what we did is we actually came out, and as opposed to having a normal Normally our our one technique would be right here. Our Mike linebacker would be here, and then have our Will here, and then we'd be in a 3, and our end would play kind of a 7. All right, technique, what they call. But this time what we did is we just went straight up, played basically 3 techniques, kind of 2, head up the guards. We played our Mike linebacker right over the top, so Jack Campbell's right here, is number 31. We played him right over the top of the center, and then we walked up Seth Benson into a outside linebacker playing on the line of scrimmage. So basically kind of 2 Leo linebackers, what we call 2 Leo linebackers, okay? Playing contain on the outside on both sides. Pretty unique. I thought they were making mistakes early on in the game when they lined up like this. So here is Justin Jacobs. Seth Benson is here. I think it speaks to the versatility of our linebacker crew when they both can play on the line of scrimmage like this. So they run a simple play here, this kind of an inside zone play. All right, this guy's trying to reach block our Leo to try to bounce this thing outside. This is Justin Jacobs. All right, you have a tight end lead blocking up here. We do such a good job in the front 4 all day long of eating up blocks, which is something we talked about being really important going into this week. Our front 4 in particular, our 2 interior linemen, our tackles, eating up these guys to allow Jack Campbell to run. So they ate him up. They ate these guys up well. Jack was able to come over top. Justin Jacobs did his job in containing the ball, and when he was tackling Breece Hall, who was trying to bust outside, he knocked the ball out of his hands. Jack Campbell came over top, scooped and soared. Looked easy, but really the work was done to me right here in the interior with the 2 defensive tackles who played a great football game. All right, guys, and that's it for today's segment of X's and O's.
Well, hopefully, Gavin, you can do a defensive touchdown every single week on X's and O's. It's 2 for 2. The defense has scored. We'll see what happens against Kent State. The Golden Flashes out of the MAC Conference this weekend. We'll preview that when we come back. Black and Gold Breakdown on MC22 is brought to you by McGrath Family of Dealerships, 5 Seasons Tire, Tom Riley Law Firm, Collins Community Credit Union, Heartland Hearing Center, and by Extreme, powered by Mediacom.
Every second, 127 new devices connect to the internet. You can feel it happening. Our digital world expanding with every breath. We're entering a whole new era of connectivity, and Mediacom will be ready to power it with one of the nation's first 10G platforms. We'll be bringing you more speed, more capacity, more security, and the power to do more than you ever dreamed possible. Today, more than ever, you need fast, reliable internet. At Mediacom, we want you to know you can count on us. Our fiber-powered 100% gigabit technology network was built for the future. We have enormous capacity and power, and 99.99% network reliability. So even though these are uncertain times, we're prepared, and you can be certain we'll keep your world connected.
Thank you for virtual family dinners and long-distance birthday wishes. Thank you for sweet streaming melodies and spontaneous dance parties. Thank you for keeping classrooms together and learning alive. Thank you to our incredible network of employees who make all these beautiful connections possible.
Today, more than ever, you need fast, reliable internet. At Mediacom, we want you to know you can count on us. Our fiber-powered 100% gigabit technology network was built for the future. We have enormous capacity and power, and 99.99% network reliability. So even though these are uncertain times, we're prepared, and you can be certain we'll keep your world connected.
Kent State out of the MAC Conference, 3-1 last year. The MAC only played 4 football games during the pandemic. 1-1 so far this year. Did lose 41-10. Had a very good Texas A&M team, and I think the one thing that really stands out about Kent State is up-tempo. They're going to run a ton of plays, get up to the line of scrimmage, snap the ball quickly, they'll throw it and run it, so it's not an all-pass team. Got a pretty good quarterback and a very young head coach coming into Iowa City.
Yeah, Sean Lewis, only 35 years old as a head football coach. I think at any level, that's pretty impressive there. And I think this game is really one up front, as most Iowa football games are. But you know that they're going to have some skill guys. I mean, that quarterback, Dustin Crum, he can throw the football.
Yep.
They've got some nice weapons at receiver, pretty good running back, a returning, fourth year guy. So I'll tell you what, we have got to be able to stop the run up front. I know that I feel confident about our 7 guys in the backfield creating opportunities. Hopefully we can get in the end zone again. But we can't let them run the football at all, not give them an ounce of hope there, because that's where we'll have an advantage. I mean, up front, Kent State, they're not going to be like we are on the defensive line side of the ball and vice versa. So I think that's where it's one in the trenches. We got to impose our will on them.
And Gavin, I think we talk about the consistency of the offense. Get that running game going and get that offensive line some confidence, I think, will be key.
It will be, yeah. At some point, they got to really gel and be one unit together working, and the communication. And that's where I think these next 2 weeks are going to be really important, because we have to have that unit solidified to give, I think, Spencer even the confidence to be in the pocket, because he got some pressure this past Saturday. Credit to Iowa State on that. So where we can throw the ball down the field and let plays develop, as opposed to having to get rid of the ball within 2.5 seconds.
Like you said, get Tyrone Tracy, Nico Reganey involved in that offense, and it shouldn't be a letdown. Don't even want to go there, because when you look at the AP and any polls out there, there is a ton to play for each and every week. And of course, Iowa now in that 5th spot in the Associated Press, 7th in the coaches poll. You got pretty good company: Alabama, Georgia, Oklahoma, who hosts Nebraska this week. And how about Oregon and Mario Cristobal taking care of Ohio State?
Playing with great energy. Ohio State's really going to struggle defensively this year if they don't get their tackling figured out. They looked really suspect on the defensive side of the ball, but what a great win for him. It is sweet to see us in the top 5, Rob.
How about that? In September.
Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me of 2015 in our run, 12-0, and that was a lot of fun. But I think we have a special football team if we can get the ball down the field in the air and be consistent up front here.
And stay focused. Kirk Ferentz talked to the team after the game, and said, hey, we got a good football team, but we got to rein it in and stay focused, obviously, in every practice and every game. Let's take a quick look at Big Ten games this week, because there are a lot of good non-conference matchups. One conference game on Friday, Maryland at Illinois, and then you've got Michigan State at Miami. That's a big one. Michigan State, a little bit of a surprise. Nebraska, as I mentioned, at Oklahoma. Purdue at Notre Dame, interesting. And then Auburn at Penn State is the night game. Thanks so much for joining us for Black and Gold Breakdown. We'll see you next week.